Good morning, y'all. It is a gorgeous day at the Cook's Warehouse. It's fall. The air is nice and crispy. It's cool. We're not sweating to death. Yay, right? That's already a win in my book. I love fall. I love the flavors of fall. And we're going to talk about a great recipe. I am Chef Melissa Pelkey-Haas, and today we are going to create a pumpkin ravioli with brown butter, sage, and goat cheese. All right, let's get started. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create our dough. So we're gonna do a traditional dough. We're gonna take 2 cups of flour. And we're gonna make a well in the center. Bring in your flour to the outer edges. And just giving your eggs somewhere to go. A pinch of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon. I have 4 egg yolks and 2 full eggs to that 2 cups of flour. So we're gonna add these into our well. Then we're gonna go in and we're gonna add our 2 eggs. And all of these are kind of held in our little flour dam here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna slowly start to incorporate our eggs and our flour. So we're gonna give these a little whisk. And we wanna make sure that these yolks are broken up. And you can see it's already kind of naturally starting to bring in some of this flour. And then we're gonna start giving it a little help. So we're gonna start to pull some of our little flour wall down and incorporate it into our egg. All right, so you can see now that this is starting to get a little thicker, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. So once you get to this part where it's really getting pretty shaggy in here, you want to go ahead and start doing some incorporation with your hands. So I'm gonna grab a little of the flour. And we're gonna start bringing all of this beautifulness together. Now, here's the trick with pasta and dough of any kind. A recipe is a fabulous place to start. However, this recipe is going to change more likely than not based on climate, the humidity in your home, the humidity outside. All of those factors play in to creating a really good dough. So you have to know how to feel the dough to make sure that the texture you have is what you're looking for. So this looks a little crumbly. So at this point, we are probably gonna need to add about, well, you can do 2 things. You can add either another egg or you can add some cold water. All right, now here's the part where you just want to start bringing all of your dough together. Now you don't want to overwork your dough because you don't want tough pasta, but you also want to make sure that you work it enough that you release the gluten. And then right when you start to think this dough was never going to come together, it just does. And there we have it. So we know we've released the gluten, we're springing back. So we have a nice ball of pasta. Looking good on our pasta dough. We're gonna wrap this in some plastic wrap to keep it from drying out, and we're just gonna set that to the side. We're gonna take, oh yeah baby, we're gonna take our other half and we're gonna knead in some squid ink. There we go. We're having fun with fall here. This is totally gonna be a fall pasta. Make sure we're all kneaded in there because when we roll this, we want to make sure it rolls nice and black. We're gonna wrap up this dough to keep it nice and soft. All right, So our dough has rested for our pasta. So we have our rested dough right here. We have our squid ink and our regular. It's gonna make some beautiful pasta. We are going to go ahead and make our filling. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some pumpkin puree. This is fresh pumpkin puree. You can also buy canned. And then one of the best cheeses that just blends perfectly with our pumpkin is goat cheese. So we're gonna add about 8 ounces of goat cheese. Add a little salt and pepper. This filling doesn't need much because what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a nice browned butter sauce with sage that's gonna go over this. So we don't want a lot of flavors because the flavors we have, we wanna keep them simple, we wanna keep them natural. We're gonna add a little salt. So if you have a KitchenAid stand mixer, this is awesome for making stuffed pastas. You have your pasta attachment, you have your bowl to make your filling, it's kind of an all-in-one deal here. So I'd consider it well blended when you really no longer see the goat cheese and the pumpkin. It's just one nice combined mixture. Now we're gonna go ahead and start rolling our pasta. So we've got 2 sheet trays. We're gonna use those for the pasta once it's rolled. So this has been resting for about 45 minutes to an hour. 30 minutes is good. You just want to give the gluten time to rest so it doesn't spring back. And the way that you can tell if that dough is ready is if you press in it and it doesn't immediately spring back out at you. If it does, that means the gluten hasn't relaxed enough and it's going to make your pasta like a rubber band to spring right back. All right, we're going to take a little flour. You want to work with pasta in smaller sizes. That way it goes through your roller easier. And you want to make sure that it's nice and floured so it doesn't stick to your roller. Now you can also roll this dough by hand. Very easy to do that. You can also use a hand crank roller. Perfect for pasta. We just happen to have the KitchenAid, which makes it a breeze to do handmade pasta. We need to start at the beginning. I'm just gonna get one. Now for your first pass, you always want to make sure that you do a fold and then send that guy back through. Anytime you feel your pasta start to get a little sticky, just make sure to rub just a little bit of flour. You don't want it too dry, so be careful how much you do that, but you don't want it to stick in that roller. And that applies to hand cranking KitchenAid. So now we're gonna move this to our next level, which is gonna be 2. We're going to take this to a 3. And you can now really feel this starting to get thin. We're going to come down to a 4. And it's really important you don't rush this. I'm going to come down to a 5. Take it down one more, and I think we are ready on this roll. Right, that's some beautiful pasta. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more flour. You can add semolina to this just to make sure it does not stick together. And then we're gonna cover this just so it doesn't dry out. All right, guys, so now we're gonna do a super fun, cool thing for Halloween. So since we are making pumpkin ravioli, we're gonna take our little mini pumpkin cutter, I believe this is an Ann Clark, and we're going to make some mini pasta pumpkins from our squid ink pasta. just gonna trim our edges. We're gonna take our little black pumpkins. I'm just gonna give these a quick roll into the dough. So that will be our top layer. I'm gonna grab our bottom layer here. And we're just gonna put some little dollops of filling. I'm gonna cover our bottom sheet with our top sheet. We're gonna seal with a little water. The catch though with any type of filled pasta is you want to make sure your seal is sealed. The last thing you want is for all of your filling to come flying out while you're cooking this. You also want to make sure to get as much of the air bubbles out as you can. And we're going to go ahead and trim. And I'm going to push a little firm when I trim these edges, because again, that will also help seal the pasta. All right, guys, so we have all of our pasta assembled, our multicolored pastas. So we have the ones with the pumpkins, so cute for fall, right? You can do leaves, all sorts of things. We have our stripes, and again, our black coloring was with squid ink. We have our little marble, almost kind of like a Van Gogh Starry Night thing going on here. And then we have, for Halloween, we have our Harry Potter lightning bolt. Super cool, right? So we're gonna go ahead and drop these 4. You always wanna make sure when you're dropping pasta, especially fresh pasta, that you don't overcrowd your pot, because we don't want them to stick together. We want them to have plenty of room to cook. All right, so we're gonna finish our pumpkin and goat cheese ravioli with a really nice brown butter and sage sauce. So the trick with brown butter is you just don't touch it. You just let it get brown. So we're gonna have it on relatively low heat. What we're looking for is like a nice nutty aroma, and that tells you that your butter has been browned and not burnt. There's a very fine line between that. All right, guys, so we have got some brown butter going on. It's got that fabulous nutty aroma. I just added a little bit of garlic to this and some fresh sage, and that's really all the sauce is gonna need. Grab our little sage. Just gonna dot this along our pasta. Now we're gonna spoon our delicious brown butter with garlic over our ravioli that's filled with pumpkin and goat cheese. So we've got all these wonderful flavors of fall with a sprinkle of toasted walnut. We hope that you create these at home. Everything that you would need to make these, of course, you're gonna find right here at the Cook's Warehouse, where we give you every excuse to cook. Cheers, y'all.